What do you think the impact of some issues having to do with salary, management salary, has had on trustworthiness?
Well, here again, you can always write a story about a nonprofit salary. Why? Because if you surveyed the public, I believe this, the vast majority of them would say, I'm shocked that people even make the salary in nonprofits. It's a problem with you. So if you say to a person, well, there's a nonprofit down the street, it's doing good work, but the executive makes 6 figures, that's going to be a problem. And if a media person writes a story about it, it's going to appear to be a scandal. It's really a tempest in a teapot, right? But the problem is that, again, I think it goes back to the values that we ascribe to nonprofits. We think you have to be self-sacrificing. We expect them to be, persevering, hardworking, dedicated people who are only in it to accomplish a mission. Well, we can be in it for those reasons and to make a living too. But I think we haven't figured out a way yet to help people understand that those values still exist in our organization, even though we get paid a salary. So I think until we figure that out, until we begin to have broader conversations like we're having with the overhead myth, we're going to continue to run into these kinds of problems.
And I talk to reporters a lot, and I start the conversation with, we didn't take a vow of poverty just because we're meeting a mission. And GuideStar actually has a really great white paper that's what you need to know about executive compensation. If I can get your card later, I'm going to send it to you. And it's the IRS regulations are you have to have comparison data, and you have to compare based on similar mission and similar revenue. So if there are others that are making this, then that's okay. And if they're bringing in millions of dollars, that's fine. But it is what the IRS scrutinizes almost more than anything else lately. And it is what the media focuses on quite a bit, and rightfully so. There's been some really good articles that have kind of outed those that do abuse. So, and I want to go back to the trust conversation that you had asked too. It's interesting, our blog, the GuideStar blog, is actually trust.guidestar.org because we think that is so critical and so crucial. For us, it's about acknowledging. That's exactly right. Acknowledging when something bad has happened and acknowledging mistakes. I think that's a really big part of trust. We actually have something new called an impact call. So we're basing it off of the for-profit kind of earnings calls, and that's our attempt to get to kind of real-time reporting information. And we have kind of 4 pieces of information we focus on, and one is mistakes. What did we do wrong? We, GuideStar, do wrong. Of all the feedback we've gotten, that has been the most celebrated. People are so excited that we're finally acknowledging that we're not all perfect and that we have, room to grow. So that's something that I get to a lot with reporters too, that there's room for growth and understanding of compensation, and there's room for better defining why you are compensating what you're compensating. So 2 answers.
It's kind of, I think the salary issue is embedded in the overhead myth to some degree, because it's a perpetuation of an alms for the poor mentality, when in fact the nonprofit sector has evolved to solve societal problems on equal status with the government and business. And you hear a lot of talk now about how do you have cross-sector collaboration for major problem solving and scale. Well, people now cross over. The best business leaders have spent time in government, best government leaders have spent time in business. Increasingly, you're seeing people who spend time in all 3 sectors. So the lines are getting blurred, but we're still kind of in a 1950s mentality about compensation for nonprofits. And Art and I have talked about this a lot, and there was actually an initiative about 10 years ago to try to educate reporters on this. And we actually talked about kind of regenerating that discussion. Maybe we should. We ought to revisit that.
One other point, Steve, on the salary issue. I forgot to mention. I often say to people that if I could find a charity that was willing to pay me $1 million a year, I would take that job in a minute. And if people criticize me for it, I would manage the criticism by saying it was a salary that I'm worth because of what we do, because of the complexity of our organization, because it was matched with other similar positions, if there are any, and there was a process that gets me there. Now, everybody's not going to buy it, right? okay, no one is going to like you. You can't get everybody like you. It's not going to work. But you do what you're supposed to do, and you do it the right way, and you let the chips fall where they may. Now, I know that's tough medicine to hear, but you're not going to get everybody to like you. But communicate and explain to people why the values still exist that they expect to exist in your organization, even though this one thing that's going on in their mind doesn't make them think those values still exist. That's your burden. That's your responsibility, I think.
And the overhead myth can help with that,
Yep.
because one of the tenets is that nonprofits should invest more in themselves. They need to strengthen, for-profits do, nonprofits need to as well, and salaries are part of that. We have to compete against the for-profit sector, and we want the smartest people here.